Big build up to the briefing today with Caroline Leavitt, which started about 45 minutes late. Here's the headline from the New York Times leading into it on this question of who authorized that second strike that allegedly killed two people who were shipwrecked after the first strike. Number one, please, Sam. Here's the New York Times. Lawmakers suggest follow-up boat strike could be a war crime. Top Republicans have joined Democrats in demanding answers. So it was clear this was going to come up with Caroline, and I didn't really know what she was going to say in advance. Here's what she said. Number two, please. The Wall Street Journal, a summary of the briefing. White House says second strike on alleged drug boat was legal. Press secretary says Admiral who ordered strike, which is reported to have killed survivors of an initial attack, was acting under excess authority. Now, this is all consistent in terms of who did what with the Washington Post story that set all this in motion, except for this question of whether it's legal, which is a little confusing. But here's Caroline Leavitt, this will be number three, Sam, saying that Admiral Bradley authorized the second strike, but he was doing it not just consistent with the orders of the Secretary of Defense, but consistent with American law. Number three, please.
I have a statement to read for you here. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear that presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed and the threat to the United States of America was eliminated. And I would just add one more point to remind the American public why these lethal strikes are taking place. Because this administration has designated these narco-terrorists as foreign terrorist organizations. The president has a right to take them out if they are threatening the United States of America and if they are bringing illegal narcotics that are killing our citizens at a record rate, which is what they are doing. And under the previous administration, there was enough fentanyl trafficked into our country to kill every American man, woman, and child many times over. And so that's why you've seen a drastic difference in this administration's policy with respect to the last, and it's one of the many reasons the American public reelected this president and support this Secretary of War in conducting these strikes.
Now, I keep three llamas in my apartment in New York City, which is not illegal because I've said it's not illegal to keep llamas in the apartment. In other words, she just asserted that it's legal, but she didn't release any, lawyer finding or didn't explain how this is a war, and Congress never passed a war resolution. So it's all a little unclear, even after that explanation. And one more thing to show everybody, including YouTube, before you comment. Mark Kelly, who's become kind of the face of the Democratic Party on these national security issues, this is a long piece of video, but it's quite gripping. Mark Kelly, military veteran, astronaut, Arizonan, battleground state senator. Here he is calling this all a bunch of hoo-ha. That's a summary. Number four, please.
There were. Who is ultimately responsible if there is something wrong with the double tap strike, with the second strike?
Well, Jake, I think it's going to be really important for my committee, the Armed Services Committee that I sit on, the same thing in the House, to get these people in the room and get testimony from them under oath, maybe part of it in a skiff and in a secure facility and part of it publicly, to get what the exact real story is. I think this is what happens when you put an incompetent individual in perhaps the second most important job in our country, the Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth had no business being nominated. Republicans in the Senate should not have confirmed him. And he's been there for less than a year now, maybe 7 or 8 months. And this is the result of incompetence at the highest level. Here's a guy, runs around on a stage talking about lethality, warrior ethos, killing people. The president even echoes that. We're going to kill people. We're good at this in the military. We have the most professional and capable military this planet has ever seen. But when you have leadership that speaks in those terms, that aren't talking about the things that really matter, like training, what kind of combat power do we have? How do we make our military more efficient and effective? And talking about, what are the laws? The law does matter.
Well, you tell me, because you fired upon boats in the Gulf War, right? I mean, as a Navy commander.
I sunk 2 ships.
You sunk 2 ships. Are you allowed, once the ship starts sinking and there are survivors I mean, the Washington Post says they were clinging to the wreckage, but whatever. They're survivors. We know there were survivors. Are you allowed to then attack the survivors?
Absolutely not. I sunk a OSA-2 missile patrol boat. It was in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m., with 2 cluster munitions in Kuwait Harbor. And then we left. We were, out a Pulnakni troop carrier in the Persian Gulf during the day getting shot at by, there were 2 ships. One of them was shooting at us. No, you don't do that. Everybody knows that. That is against the Geneva Conventions. That's against the laws of war, which we should always be abiding by. We're the United States of America. We are not Russia. We're not Iraq. We're not Iran. We have to hold our people to a higher standard. This is really serious.
So the White House said.
All right, Lyndsay, where are we on this story, and where are we going next? Are we going to get the legal finding? Is there going to be, does what the White House said today satisfy Republicans in Congress? What say you?
I don't think it satisfies a lot of people, at least privately. I think that there is concern that I don't think what Caroline Leavitt said today satisfies a lot of people, even Republicans. And I think that, there are people in the Armed Services Committee that want to do a review. And this has been longstanding, not specifically on this strike, which was September 2nd, but all the strikes that have been happening on these boats. Now, I will say it's interesting to me that the Senate actually decided not to do a review process earlier before this information came out on finding more information on these boats. And so it seems like they were giving the administration kind of a pass here. But now when information comes out like this, and you have some of our closest allies like Great Britain, who are saying they don't want to intel share with us anymore because they think that the US is breaking international law, I think that's when you start to ruffle feathers about, what's in question here is not, why did the second strike happen? Was it because they felt like the boat wasn't properly blown up, or was it because there were people alive? So I do think there will be a review process here. I think that is what's next. I think the question in my mind is, will we ever hear about this further? Will we have a clear answer? I don't know that we will.
Yeah, Robby.
Well, first of all, no one supports your right, Mark, to have 3 llamas in your New York apartment more than I do. So I wanted that established. But no, on a more serious note, look, I think everybody's troubled by this. On some level, I guess I feel conflict. The initial decision if you shoot at the boat, you explode the boat, the expectation has to be that everyone's going to be killed. So there's a lot of pause about this second strike. Well, if they had the authorization to do it the first time, the expectation should be that everyone would die. The problem is that strike is itself on something that was designated. These were designated to be terrorists by the president without Congress saying, okay, we are at war with narco traffickers, whatever we're calling them. And I think we're all uncomfortable on all sides of the political spectrum with the idea that the president, whoever he was, could just say, here is a group of people or a person I am designating subject to be killed at whim, and that's it. And there's no congressional process for that. Seems very contrary to our systems. And I said drone strike earlier, thinking of, and here's where this I think matters. Barack Obama, of course, took a lot of flack from some people like Rand Paul, who's been complaining about this years and years and years ago, about strikes in the Middle East that killed Anwar al-Awlaki, who was an American citizen, a supporter of terrorism, a reprehensible person, but an American citizen nonetheless. There was, I believe, a double tap process involved in, I don't know that one, but in some of the drone strikes Obama did. So what I'm saying is there is actually a bipartisan history of being skeptical of some of these uses of the executive branch's power, and that was at least part of an authorization against terrorism that was subjected to Congress voting for it. So it seems like we're stretching it in ways that is going to have everybody very concerned.
Yeah, go ahead, Lyndsay.
And I don't think what's at question is, can there be a second strike? It's why was there a second strike? Mm-hmm. That's the crux of the question here. Was it to finish the job, or was it to specifically kill 2 survivors?
Yeah.
And under international law, you can't just go specifically after injured survivors.
Yeah. Robby, back when you were in elementary school, I was appalled at the Congress's abrogation of its responsibility and its deference to the executive branch on matters of war. I couldn't believe it when I really started covering the Bush administration, Bush and Cheney, Bush and Baker said we can go to war without a resolution, but we'll get one anyway. But we don't need it, but we could do it without. And then they got it. They worked really hard to get it. And after that, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think a single president has gone to get a declaration of war. Mm-hmm. They did after 9/11, but that was a layup, and they abused it, and they used it for 25 years for other stuff. So my point is, this is when you say that offends people, it offends us, but I can't believe it offends the majority of the American people, because Congress has just been absolutely feckless in this. And so the American people, and I've seen polling on it, but it's a little hard to poll. I don't think the American people give a whit about this. They're happy to not have 535 secretaries of defense or commanders in chief. They're happy to have just one. And the presidents all take advantage of that. So I will say, until this controversy over the Washington Post story, even despite what I just said, I was amazed at how little debate there was about the president going to war in Latin America, just killing people on boats. I was amazed. There was almost no discussion of it. Now there's some, but there's still not enough. So this is what Pete Hegseth tweeted. Franklin, is that the name of that frog? Franklin? Yeah. Turtle. Thank you, Turtle. So tweet, Franklin targets narco-terrorists. Very funny, very defiant, very much like, I'm going to make a joke about Franklin to you, you wimps. So somebody just made this one. I find this kind of funny. Franklin goes to The Hague. You see poor Franklin there in the dock facing international tribunal charges. Anyway, I thought that was funny. It's a serious story, but that's funny. I got an email from one of you, from a lady who said her husband doesn't care about clothes normally, but she bought him the Cozy Earth pants. He loved them so much. He normally doesn't comment on any clothes because he's like me, basically not interested in clothes or shopping. But he said, hey, can I get a second pair of these? So she bought him a second pair. And this part I'm making up, they renewed their marriage vows now. But she's very happy and he's very happy. You can give the gift of luxury to everybody on your holiday list with Cozy Earth. Crazy now, a sale, 40% off sale. Go to CozyEarth.com. Use the promo code TWOWAY for an extraordinary 40% off. That's the Cozy Earth bamboo sheets, the towels, the bubble cuddle blanket, all the pants you could possibly wear. Head to CozyEarth.com. Again, you can get 40% off if you order by December 12th, guaranteed for Christmas delivery. Give the gift of comfort that lasts beyond the holidays and carries into a cozy 2026. Again, CozyEarth.com, promo code TWOWAY.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the Morning Meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.